Although,
Yes, sir.
the Rocky Hill update that we're talking about, that mentions the R in there.
I'm not sure if we have actual, uh, number of times, but it's basically regarding parking for our farmers and how we can use them for them at the break, kind of along that area.
They don't do anything with their.
That was the bike pack or anything like that, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
There may still be a number of them.
Because I just became a member of the Major Art Committee. So I didn't do it as me, but I read all the documents and stuff.
Right, you know, that,
And I saw that on the list.
no, yeah, I think it still has a project number, but I think it's able to.
That's what I was thinking, so the last round. Right.
Yeah.
They're coming in to talk about options now. Remember we asked you, but there was no options.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think there's anything new today. What I'd like to do is just, you know, it is late for us. You know, if it's, or any other options or anything new, let's just get it off of our agenda. Yeah. Good. Yeah, I'm done. Good. Vendor, are you sure? Good. Okay, great.
The fiscal staff did one today and they're making like the permits for their employees. Take it all, I'll leave some plates for all of you.
Join the.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm a little disappointed when they were. Oh, yeah, that's a light.
You're in your ratio.
You got like maybe or something.
Yeah.
Which is really good. Yeah. They were telling me to drive back.
Yeah.
I think we should.
Be down here before then.
Of water from Columbia. I am. So good to be back to the States.
On his leadership trip to
Oh, where you?
South America.
Great.
Panama, Colombia, and Costa Rica.
Oh,
Oh, really? We went to San Day and Puerto Vallarta.
Okay.
Beautiful.
I just
You're doing
did it.
fun
Did
stuff
that
or it's all
for
good?
him.
It was all academic.
San Jose, that's not the chance we're not there. but-
Yeah, no. We went to Earth University, Florida.
Hey, Dr. Flores is next.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was Korean.
What is that? It made me feel like it.
Oh,
It sounds terrible. It made me feel like a loser college student because you have, they were just teachers, they're just like,
Or is it the board?
they were growing the soldier flies. Go and dry them. They enter fish, and I give the fish and I feed it, that's big the bacteria. And they're growing their own fertilizer, everything's out there organic. Then breathe on a daily basis. It literally made me feel like a little squid. So that was really there.
Just what we need to cover.
Really.
We really don't want to. It's getting from our.
Especially, yeah, we stayed there.
But, we got it out there. We didn't go out.
Just like walking down the street, it's like.
So, I mean, we go there.
So, thank you. Well, that's basically why. viewers for.
Oh, they're still leaving.
We rely on really. No, we're just saying, but.
Yeah.
I suppose one of the.
People are really smart. And it was working.
So any idea?
So it's all.
Yeah, I gotta start working on it. Hold on, I gotta get this whole guy. Well, they work.
Great.
Things that like, you know, like my travel. Yeah. Yeah.
Sir?
That's half a year.
Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and call our May 15th Tulare County Ag Advisory Committee meeting. Jim Solomon. Here, Woody.
Representing Tulare County.
Ron Perrigan representing livestock and range. Vincent Farias representing Tulare City. Derek Williams, LI Business. Paul Brandis, Franklin Farms for dairy operation.
Welcome, Colin.
With, using answers and building.
I'm Jonathan Trevino with the Tulare County College Department. Glad to be here.
Keith County, Tulare County Environmental Health.
Chris Rivera representing Tulare County Ag Commissioner.
Casey Lynn with the RMA.
Aaron Bean, County.
Alva Parker here at RMA, and want to remind everyone that you are being recorded for the minutes.
I'm trying to call Aaron our favorite county council.
Your conservation and natural resources.
Thank you, Scott. Brandon?
Not yet.
Thank you for everyone being here. At this time, members of the public to comment on any items on the agenda. Matters that are on the agenda.
Sure, yeah. John, to consolidate, what's the best word to?
Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none. We'll public comment. Minutes. Those approved. We know they are verbatim. Welcome. They're located at the website is noted on your agenda. Right. We got a couple items on the agenda today. Actually three. Some of them we're hoping we can get wrapped up and maybe come to a resolution on one way or another. Everyone here that on item number 4, that's going to speak to it.
Jenna Trevino with Solid Waste is here. And so this as way of introduction and reminder, this group has talked a lot about large carcass disposal and the lack of options. And so Solid Waste has included in their budget a feasibility study, and so Jonah is here to give an update.
Yeah, so we are working with PTC. They're a civil and environmental consultant. So they're providing a feasibility study for a couple of different options to either dispose of or purchase and operate an incinerator there at the landfill property itself. That two options will be covered. You know, they'll do a time effort and cost analysis on that. Also permitting and environmental impact for what we need to get down for the rate analysis for customers. There will be some input from other departments in terms of scope of the problem and that kind of stuff, but we're working with the consultant now, and so when that to commission. We're working with them in creating skills. So for the end of July 1.
You got any idea on the parameters that you're looking at as far as minimum weight, maximum weight?
That's all information that they're going to be gathering.
How are they going to gather that?
By reaching out to different agencies that are, for example, I don't recall the name of the current entity that does the incinerator now.
Providing the minutes and the recordings from this group's discussion. The consultant was going to call in today, but
Our words that we heard, it shouldn't impact Tulare County or increase Baker issues or anything, Baker's body. if anything, the facility in Turlock in the northern area should take that overflow. We're trying to be optimistic and believe that to be true and hopeful, but that is the word that we got. So
Who owns the Turlock facility?
and I'm not sure exactly, so I can get that to you.
I think the question to ask, from a commercial standpoint, look at dairy issues, buy an animal. Player, darling, what's that?
Well, I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of the animal control, you know, even just large dogs, medium-sized animals are over for dairy. At least you guys.
So, you know, if there been thought whether or not this would be in county only, or would it be open to out of county, or just depends?
That could be something that we could have to do.
County's going to compete after that thing on that landfill. Future. And it's been good.
That and create energy, so as long as it produces methane, it'll continue to do that and.
Office of with Bryce Howard and other staff at probably 3 or summers ago. We had a subcommittee formed off of the advisory committee to discuss these options. And we put a white paper together and through the channel. I'm just curious what has finally caused us to come to the front of the list for this conversation to take place.
I'm the board.
So that was missing for the last 4 years, apparently.
I met with Bryce. The initial discussion was the roadside animals that we all have to deal with, of course, you know, on the side, but it's not supposed to talk about the commercial. But Bryce said, he budget. What he said, to see what the really needs are. Well, that's where this is at. I had a meeting with Bryce.
Yeah, it was my understanding initially that there was some information in terms of what the county's needs were at that time. And there, you know, I do recall that there was some talk of a study back then.
We've had 2 words up in here,
And then it becomes your responsibility.
Well, I called the county, they couldn't get them, I don't know what happened.
That has only been a kind of short-term solution. Yeah, county and animal services implementing a out there for taller that, you know, helping reducing that burden, but a lot of rural dumping areas that the feeding situation. Most of us will not know about.
Well, you know, just dumping an animal, especially when they get dumped in the foothills. You know, you got a disease problem. You know, that animal's disease, he gets dumped alongside the road, it rains, and you got somebody down below that's susceptible to something down below. And we've got now in the county, we've got the, let's get the, what is this? Particular stomatitis, and that stuff spreads like fire. You know,
But like the animal control incinerator has never been able to take sheep. Opening their incinerators only that protect the dogs, you know, that has never been a solution that really matched up with, alignment of priorities, what animal services need, in the county, that they are the ultimate agency that kind of dumps on them. But Ag Commissioner's office gets calls, and Farm Bureau gets calls throughout the year. But I do think, ultimately it's one of those tough areas where we don't have good data, but we don't have good data because there hasn't been any structured solution for decades. And the landowners have usually had to so it's whole.
Right. I think we're hoping to do with the feeling. I mean,
the best way to ensure that your consultant sees white static that came out, white people that came out.
What if we look at the road?
It's not all that, you don't want to copy it.
yeah, all that information will be, and like I said, will be.
Our parameters should know, I think, one parameter should be, build a center, should be land. Please.
And just a clarification on the process as well. There's always going to do a feasibility study that's going to provide some information about the scope and the cost and all of that. But ultimately, the Board of Supervisors is going to have to make a decision. So I just want to put that protection in for Jonah. Just because they're doing the feasibility study doesn't mean that there's necessarily going to be the investment to do the project once it's identified.
So, the one thing that I talked to Bryce about, when you talk about sheep, you talk about pigs, you talk about horses that are on the side of the road, and how you think that anything is pretty about those horses or anything like that. But whatever your study is for this year, you're gonna have to, it's gonna be white, because August is not recorded. I'll get a picture of an animal that was dumped on Saturday on the side of the horse on the side of the road, and I'll call Army Monday, it's gone, somebody cut it off.
Most data doesn't exist.
It does, and so you need to understand that when it comes up.
Right.
Because, it's like meth lab. Everybody reports it, so the DOJ started charging them, and then all of a sudden, Tulare County didn't have meth alcohol. Why? Because they got buried. So, I think that I just asked if that be looked at before the decision's made, and maybe, ask Bryce once we get closer to meet with him, because I can guarantee you, it is extremely underreported. I would say probably take what you have and multiply it by 2 or 3 at least.
I mean, we can maybe create a scale where we say.
Tricia, animal control, and RMA get a lot of calls. And I don't think that would be, you guys need to look at that. And I'm not telling the company how to do the research, but there are other avenues out here. You're not going to call the sheriff's office for dumping and find this people that were dumping of carcasses. Everyone knows that nothing's going to happen. It's a hassle and they get buried. So, I'm sorry, Rick.
I was just going to mention in general that in Tulare County, illegal dumping is a problem on all. We already has a farm and ranch program, and solid waste has their illegal dumping program, and so this solution is going to come at a cost too, and so folks may choose not to avail themselves of it. But
That's why they're dumping in the first place too, because they don't want to call it dead hauler.
Yeah.
$500 a quarter.
That's why they dump the trash too, because they don't want to pay $35 I think they gave, or pay $50 a month to have. To get their stuff taken care of.
But, well, that's,
Yeah, right, exactly.
And we have a subcommittee a number of years ago. One of the farm bureaus, campaign. Let's not just create a channel that, again, we got every master program, and you just build out master on every, country road there is. Is there a way that Tulare, that the county being a large livestock producing county, could pilot or take under consideration some kind of program that is more of a research-based opportunity? And we go out there and find some grants or dollars from the air district or UC Davis or Vet Med Teaching Center, and we build some kind of program that allows ranchers and small farmers to do composting on their own property. To me, and I think he said they're taking the head.
well, it's just state.
I get it. You only want that the number of times, and you just see the regional water quality control board is just not going to work. That's not a county issue,
Water quality control angle to work this deal with the money. I mean, because everybody knows that this stuff is getting buried. With water quality control, it's all against getting anything buried. Could you work at that? And we got a problem here with stuff getting buried. And you want to solve the water quality problem. Could you give any money or considerations out of them? What quality problem?
water quality for last Thursday, if I could have money to serve failing septic systems that used to rotate, and they said we don't need to. So, I mean, there's the, nitrate, the PD salt programs that are, the management zones that are in place, kind of another layer of irrigated land regulatory program. I could chat with them to see what their appetite might be. A lot of these, the dairy parcels are under a dairy order that's going to be up for renewal here pretty soon. But it's really, the Tulare County Ordinance Code doesn't say anything about burying on site, neither for nor against, but we're not the stop on the regulatory basis. That's clear. Not in like the other.
Yes, I think under the definition
I
of
looked at
solid
that
waste,
target or you can search those words.
look up solid waste in the definitions, and the animal might be. Question, I know initially you said you're gonna look at incinerator and or burial on site, so, it would seem like, and I know your guys' CEQA prohibit currently burial of animals, but the type of landfill you guys are is allowed to do it, so it would just be, I don't know if it'd be a ministerial thing or some type of CEQA exemption or something like that, but it seemed to me like the cost would be significantly less to landfill it, but I don't know what kind of volume you're dealing with and, what kind of capacity you guys have over the years, and then also whether or not the new 1383 would prohibit something like that, because it seems like competing interests like air pollution and incinerator versus dump-it organic landfill kind of thing. So I don't know how they're going to compare the two, but if you guys did handle it at the landfill, it just seems like you'd have to have separate areas, maybe specific days, or something like that.
Right, so that's something that they'll look into. I know that we've talked about this before, and yet that's really what it comes down to is when we bury animals, it would require a separate operation that we have to staff. And of course, if things are happening intermittently, but if we say, it's only room on Mondays, then we can have that operation ahead of time. I think,
Has anybody ever thought about, starting to be thinking about the water issues and their regulation? But has anybody thought about reaching out, actually working with the water commission or with those regulatory agencies? Let them determine what areas in the county would be eligible for in-ground disposal based on the water tables. And I know we got plenty of areas where the water is 1,000 feet down, as opposed to where it's 100 feet or 200 feet. And in those areas where we would not be impacting the water table.
I think
The
unless
basin is
it's solid waste. Yes. Only place that's really regulated here is, and you said, it's kind of interesting, but it says countywide. Actually, when I call the regional board, it only applies to those areas that have under a waste discharge permit. They're not under a waste discharge permit. Then you got other sets of rules on distance from running water, things like that. Then you can carry. But in most of Northern California, all those livestock operations up there, they vary. You've got your cow, you got a dead whatever, they're buried on site. And some counties have actual guidelines on how far from running water, how far from having buildings and such as that. But they're used. It's a little dicey, but I had a discussion. And so you came under, if you're under a waste discharge, all it is, that's almost everything that's under 600 feet now. 300 feet, because we're requiring waste discharge even for everything. So, guys that have statues or almonds out here, come out in the morning and got a horse dumped on their property. They're farming, they're under a waste discharge permit, making a hair.
During the die-off, couple times during the heat wave, it pretty much took, an emergency declaration. And even then, the water board still said, well, if it's done, we're not going to do anything about it, but they never did it.
And that's, of course, that's an emergency.
Doesn't take all the bones up. You just area. And it just, then you still have the problem there, and then it took the bones to the solid waste, paid a couple $1,000 and told them to direct them to the same place that went up for the trash. So, there's that whole complexity in that too.
Because when you start doing composting, it's a two-part process in there. That you can, under emergency, possibly get the compost, but they won't allow land spreading of the residue. Then you're right back down to the coast.
Easier just to take it to the dump in the first place.
It amazes me. I mean, we had truckloads of old show up landfills. Yet you can't compost the middle.
Well, thank you to the supervisor for elevating this after this many years. Beat this dead horse to oblivion for a lot of years. I do agree that the material fix with what Bryce suggested years ago, just a modification to the existing landfill class 1 type permit status for something of that nature. But I think at best it will still be an underreported situation that, a lot of folks are not going to use the landfill solution. It'd be great to have that as a legal year-round 365-day option, so at least start turning the conversation towards we do have a landfill that can take, your pony, your alpaca, your fish sheep.
And it's not a responsibility of it, but it gives us
Some solution.
a way we can even deal with it. Right now, discuss how it's going to deal with it. And so we need a way where we're
That's the way I would, it's not gonna stop. You got three matches today, matches all over, so we have an avenue to do that. So when would be a good time to contact you about progress on this?
I'd say in the next 2 months. Yeah, and then again, we'll be reaching out when we get to the point where we require meeting again.
I have a request though, that anything, any updates from this board before it comes to board. I'll talk about it. Any other comments on this, on that topic? Thank you very much. Dr. Bill, thank you.
Mr. Reed Chinky to provide, hopefully the conclusion for the.
Thank you all for having me. I'm Reed Chinky, I'm the director of RMA. I guess for purposes of this conversation, I'm representing Public Works and Roads. You'll probably be familiar that a few years back, there was a proposal to do a kind of 5-lane walking trail at Rocky Hill on the east side of Spruce. That project has kind of been shelved and there's no progress. That's not proceeding. There's no funding for it. So for all intents and purposes, there's nothing there. We're currently working on a project for the stretch of Rocky Hill west of Spruce into the city of Exeter, and then portions within the city of Exeter. In the county portion, that's been pared down to basically just a asphalt road surface overlay, no real widening, a little bit of shoulder work, some shoulder clearing there. But for practical speaking purposes, the road is not changing in any way. There's a little bit of sidewalk work going on within the city of Exeter, near the high school, and then on the north side of the road there, going to their mall. We'll be doing some railroad crossing improvements there, and then later, not Rocky Hill, but Fireball, which is just the next major road to the south, kind of a similar treatment that, but they're primarily just road vehicular improvements for the road surfacing. So that's kind of the project that we're looking at, but I know the conversation here is also geared more towards parking, pedestrian use, access on Rocky Hill, no parking zones. We've got a few no parking zones along Rocky Hill, kind of at the top where people like to go and actually park and look out over the view. But there is still the issue with people using Rocky Hill, they'll park near the Pine Turn Canal there, walk up the hill. At this point in time, we're not proposing or looking at increasing the no parking zones in any significant way there. Somebody who kind of trained me, one of their conditions of putting no parking zones, if you squeeze a balloon, it collapses in your hand, but it squirts out somewhere else. So to put no parking zones here creates problems elsewhere. We don't want people crossing Spruce if they're going to try to walk across the road. It becomes a safety hazard. Potentially put some liability on the county if there's unsafe crossings going on there. So that is, I know it's a kind of a tricky one because of the conflicting uses there. But from a transportation operations perspective, we got to be able to accommodate all uses of the road. The funds don't just go for cars; they go for cars, for pedestrians, cyclists, and everybody else out there. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm happy to entertain questions or conversations on Rocky Hill.
So, if I may, I spoke with Fred Gill, and then his concern is by expanding that area, going down the street. Not only will we have to go down the street, we have to go half a mile, go either way down the street, because they're just going to spread out. Fred's concern is that they will go on the east side, and then they'll block his access to headquarters, and it's going to be really negative impact. Of course, actually, even what he has on the east side, so I think you can block them. They go to your call already, and take that intersection. Talk to some town guys up there, then the bottom of the catalog, you can't block one day now, so it's really kind of how one half does the other, what you do. I just got a complaint here, lots of the two still, I think about the army stuff, if you want to follow it. About the, littering. I went up there and looked, it's not too bad, a couple of things here and there, but what's happening is they're actually parking on the top of the hill again, and throwing their balls over the tall fence. And, I don't know if there was a fire there, or they just, the fire break, but it's probably garbage, problem, private property. I don't know if they have to do the big thing, do something. But I can tell you where I live, I live in a two-story house. I see Rocky Hill all the time, and I see them do like this all the time. The sheriff's up there a lot. It's a people's fault. They are up there doing what they can, living with the car. So guys, it's really bad on the north side. They're looking for the sunset or whatever. They're at your party and they're throwing their stuff over. Not a lot from the shoulders of the road. I mean, could do some, maybe somebody about that. Pick it up every now and then, didn't look too bad. I don't know if the root's correct, Fred's nurse place there and he's worried about if we use that and then they start parking on Merchant. Actually, that way, but on Myers or going that way, it's walking off the same person to the back. That's a tough place to pick up trash because it drops off down there where that's going to be. Yeah, it's on the north side. If you drive up, I drove up going up hill and I didn't really see it until I turned around and come down and you can see where it's going down the hill. You need access to the property this back. There's a lot of bottles and cans of food. Really bad one. There's roads on the north side. On which side of the road? On the north side. They're going up, well, it actually be, yeah, I'm getting north side, right before the fire access road going up into Badger Hill. That piece right there. Yeah, well, that belongs to the, association, I think. I believe the hill itself, kind of, and surrounding the Badger Hill homeowners. Yeah, it's the homeowners association. It's really tracked on that. And they got a big tall fence, so I don't like you to think. Well, that doesn't stop it, but they just throw it over. That's what I'm saying, they're throwing it over the top. Yeah, because of the challenge. Because of the challenge. Yeah, well, they dump it on the lower side of my place and it's rolled about 50 I gotta collect tires. There was a comment made on the emails, and I don't know who was sending the email. Talked about maybe mowing some of that back. He worked in conjunction with the sheriff, he put it through up there. I had it for a long time. He went out there. Not a lot of garbage. He told them that.
I think, I mean, it's the same issue anywhere. It's Rocky Hill exacerbated because of the higher population of pedestrians and vehicles out there. But, it's the same concern on 272. If the people, it's my ride in to work, and there's people riding their bikes out there. They've got a farm operate along that way too. So I don't have a great solution. The county is in a tough position because we can't limit pedestrians really on roads. The state can do it on the highway, surface highway.
That's still a parking.
If they're on private property, then that's certainly, getting towed. Well, I know there's tow companies out there.
The trash problem is being aggravated by the people that are walking Rocky Hill at night up there every day. It's the people that drive up there and park at night over there, trash over the fence. Sheriff's up there a lot. I mean, I want to say, I can say almost every day. Well, I'm sure they are, but you know what it's like up
Ordering, you know, I can go there before it was apart. And we take some off of the.
But to the farm bureau's point, yeah. Solar is custom farming operations. Downhill to west of town. He's the one that really was having significant problems. Parking of cars, taking the roads, blocking the ability of spray rigs and tractors to turn around. And he would go out, 11 o'clock at night and mark areas off with cones and appropriate signage to also comply with his restricted materials permitting from the ag commissioner's office. And he'd go out at 5 in the morning and they'd be halfway through a night spray. They might start night spray at midnight, and at 3 or 4 in the morning, Zach goes out there and there's people parked walking up there and they'd move the cones to park their cars. And they're blocking the spray rig turning around. They're blocking and interrupting a spray that's gonna then add, pesticide risk and people's cars getting sprayed and.
Is it overspray or is it they can't use county right away to turn their vehicles on? Because I know that's a sensitive subject,
It is very.
Well,
but the county right away is
he
not
has
necessarily.
enough room to turn on his own property. He can turn on his own property. But,
When cars are parked in between the roads.
If they're on private property, absolutely.
Yeah.
You've got every right to get them. Doesn't help me at that exact moment if I take it down.
Well, that's it for a side here.
I really appreciate the update. I represented a number of private landowners along that Rocky Hill corridor, both from the edge of the city limits all the way up to the mountaintop. And it would be great to provide them an official kind of announcement of what you just verbally shared with us. One, Carmona and I exchanged emails over the last year and a half where I got bits and pieces of the same information. But if there's something we can more officially put out to that landowner stakeholder group that has met a few times at Farm Bureau, I'd be glad to put that information out there, kind of where we can stand right now.
So we can provide the link to you're being recorded, by the way. Okay. So I mean, it's in the official minutes.
But specifically, Claudia Sanchez is our project manager on that, and I know she's been in contact with you. I think she sent you a couple emails, kind of basically summarizing what I said too. But I think we're still about a year out from construction on this. But we've got a fairly developed set of plans. We can share those with you.
Well, you're gonna take that on to out to spruce, if I understand.
The overlay project, so just pavement reserve.
Yeah, but you're also gonna have a bike path or a walking path out to spruce.
No,
That's what he's telling us today, that I'm not sure it totally made it out to the landowner side of the conference.
Just able for now, or is,
There's no funding. If we don't do it now, there's probably no funding in the future for it. So I get direction otherwise that it becomes a priority.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for being here today.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for making a arrangement for me.
thank you.
Takes care of items 4 and 5. Item 6, older ordinance outcome. Mr. McCarty, you have something you wanted to, pick out right now?
So, personally, I feel this was a bait and switch. This was not what was discussed in our meeting. We talked about the Solano County, one other one. My understanding was there was some legality problems with that ordinance. That's why all of a sudden it became a deferral one. And I'm not going to tell somebody they cannot own a rooster. This didn't become a rooster ordinance or anything about that. It became about fighting. And then when I'm sitting there in a public meeting, being told there's no legitimate reason to own a rooster. And if you own a rooster, you're a cartel member. And roosters, people go roosters, how illegal Mexicans come permitted. Illegal Mexicans
and unpermitted housing. I think was the quote. And they don't pay their taxes. They're drug users. That's what was prevented that. And I will never support anything that's presented that way. Now, are they staffed about the judgment? I subsequently find out this came down to one guy, turns out to be in my district, that I didn't even know who's having his neighbor do that. Now, there are issues that occur. But when we turn around and we're stopping people from kill birds, FFA projects, storage projects, and all that's impacted by this, no, I'm not going to support that. No one talks about Newcastle. No one talks about the transportation of these birds or other issues that were going on. I was pretty disgusted. My position is have an ordinance on the books, if it's, I want to say 1968, if I remember correctly, if it needs to be fixed, it's fixed. I said that during the meeting. It needs to be fixed. Have ordinance on the book that talks about how many head of cattle, horses, you can have on per acre property, whatever. If that needs to be addressed, then let's fix it. I'm not going to be part of it. Well, I mean, this guy turned around and gave me a Google Earth image and it showed some rectangle stuff. You could tell the bunch of some sticks, they're illegal bird people. Over. That's second one. Okay. That's why I voted against it, even though I sat in the room with one for it, because it was not.
It didn't go down the way that our motion started. Okay, your agenda. Motion made to have draft an agenda item for us about director at 8AC, committee to discuss and let us amend the culture. But reference to the sure of the Solomon County. But it wasn't for RMA. And there was a RMA draft a letter on behalf of Eric Fine. Unfortunately, I don't want to. Wasn't capacity of AAC.
I wrote a letter on that farm bill. And because of fear of bodily harm, I did not get up and speak that day.
Well, anyway,
Oh, they weren't that bad.
I do think, I think we need to be more diligent with RMA and, all of that.
Well, once it came all inclusive, they're a bunch of criminals, racial.
Yeah, and that had on with, and that nothing to do with our committee or with RMA.
No. Had nothing to do with our committee, had nothing to do with our mate, but it did come down to the guy pushing it.
And that might have become more evident if we'd had if it come back to the committee, our committee.
Some of the books need to be totally involved. Let's not be like the state. The federal government is pretty involved, yeah. But, you know, there's some people complaining, I got listened all the time. I get that, there's some concerns. But let's be, I even said it, what's that count for? They are doing that, by the way. They are part of that thousand. Back in the digest, saying that's expecting more pollution. It's just non-ending. So, that's why I voted no. Take no action because it's the way it was proposed.
Yeah, I would expect it just to have something back, refer back to continue to work or maybe. Nice to see what.
So we did, at the board, option A was to revise the existing zoning for poultry ordinance. And then option B was to draft a rooster ordinance. And then option C was to take no action. And then the board.
Unfortunately, I never saw it.
That's true. That's, I think, one of the main pieces.
I never saw it, never referred to anybody else.
We talked about getting the recommendation last week.
That's where it ended up.
To get direction from the board, so that was the direction.
Correct. That was the motion that I made. It's amended a couple times, clarified, and wordsmith was the AAP.
How did it get, if we were looking at the zoning ordinance and we're looking at a rooster ordinance or do nothing, how was that different from what the committee?
So those items were not given back to Ag Advisory as part of the conversation. That's what ended up, I mean, Animal Services had that information a couple days before the board meeting because we heard the presentation that included the financial cost feasibility piece that Animal Services provided. And I know Patsy was out on maternity leave during all this time. Amblin worked on that information. And there was no way Animal Services going to support that in advance, that price tag, when we got other major issues on the Animal Services side. But I just feel like from what we thought was happening at this level to what ended up at the board, there was a huge amount of something lost in translation.
Absolutely. I was curious. And then when it came up on the agenda and I started reading, I'm like, what's this? And my phone blew, what people said, and it was true because it was, and honestly, I couldn't respond, saying, talk to my our maybe stuff. This is no fault for it. I'm not going to fault him if he does it all. He does what I why I think we're going to make quite happen. That's what some people, that's why we talked about this all the way. I want to talk about it. You need to make sure going along what we're
Was the part because the Ventura ordinance was included in the agenda item, which stirred, if it was not included as a reference tool or a similar ordinance to obtain, would it have simply said, hey, there was a conversation from AAP about the roost ordinance, no action, or discussion, would it have been such a big deal? And I think people maybe, this is my perception of it, people ran with the Ventura ordinance because it's so strict and stringent compared to, what we have versus Ventura. And they ran with it and then of course the additional stuff.
Ventura was talked about here, but the motion had to be for it to go on with looking at Solano.
They're both similar. When Ventura limits it to 4,
Right.
Solano says 5. It's still a limitation on roosters.
No, it is, but there was discussion, the thing is, we talked about A and B was required. Or my concern was. And then it was even more, it was
I think I can think and speak to that if you don't mind. The reason that, I believe that the Shore County ordinance was pushed forward to provide for the moratorium period, during which, immediate enforcement wasn't available. So there wasn't a due process issue with taking birds away. Whereas the Solano County ordinance didn't include that. The other piece of the Ventura County ordinance, included that the Solano County ordinance didn't was, hobbyist exceptions as well as, and there was FFA exceptions, but hobbyist exceptions, as well as large scale poultry operations were included.
And that's fine. It shouldn't take time. It shouldn't take time forward. I mean, since I've been on the board and covered this, you guys have always had me, keep your rain pulled on me, you're not allowed to do anything. That's like, no, it's just an advisory committee, it's an industry experts and so on. I'm open to bringing things up. We came up, we had a discussion, what's going to work to my opinion. That's what I want versus getting, but I'm very unhappy with how it turned out. That's long enough on portfolio. Because it became fight with the court. And that's not what it was about. It's not what it was intended to be. And when it started, it was a public meeting, racially, comments, I'm not going to listen to that. And we can't control what shows up. I get that part. But I think it would have been better to respond to it had we had some stuff. I mean, I'm almost on the board. When we move it forward, not turn around and just slap in the face blindside of it. So, to sound extremely unhappy, that's an understatement. I'm really good. I shouldn't say that. Or, this should never happen again. It's like that.
Normally I would have held this off until other comments, but I actually think it's remained in conversation. I'm kind of looking at the date of the meeting. You're talking about over the 22nd. I think maybe some of this fell through the cracks because we went 6 months without a meeting. I think we need to try from now on to have at least one meeting a quarter. And if we have to cancel meetings, then schedule meetings for the following month if we have to. But if we'd have done that, we would have had a meeting in, say, August on the 15th. Maybe this could have come before us, before it went to the board and two. So maybe we just need to look at trying to implement that kind of a policy where we meet at least once a quarter and not let a half a year go by without meeting. Or what we do.
Also, Mike is back when they go and talk to me. So. So long.
My name is Chair, you can call a meeting anytime. So if you and Mike have something, you need to
Yeah,
call a meeting.
Right, I'm talking about this. The continuity of this meeting 2 weeks before, a week before the meeting. You know, came up with some more. I'll keep progress.
I want to make it clear,
And if Mike, we need another meeting.
I want to make it clear, Mike and I talk, I'm not blaming on him at all. There was some underlying factors. I'm not.
Well, and we need to make sure that we're, when you get into the policy making, you need to anticipate who's.
There was a pat that, you know,
That's part of it. Maybe I'm glad I'm not making. Okay. I'm sitting on the night.
Right after a hurricane,
Yeah.
or fire.
All right. Anything else on, I want to call it poultry. Wait, let's leave it. Anything else on that? Other business. Items from staff. We have one item listed here. Stigma.
Yeah, so as I think you all are aware, two of our three subbasins are headed for probationary status. Initially, the Korea and the, well, let's see, the Tulare first and then the Korea, they were slated to initiate that process beginning of 2024. However, state board has delayed that a bit. The Tulare Lake subbasin is going to go first. And so that hearing is tentatively scheduled for April, which is the schedule. So, yeah, which is Kings County. And so the Tulare will go probably in May, we're thinking, depending on how the Tulare Lake goes, and then Korea would go to a hearing after that. In the meantime, those subbasins are working on addressing the deficiencies, trying to avoid probationary status. But if they don't get a blessing here, probably I would say by the end of the year, the clock pretty much will have run out, because state board has kind of said we're not going to. You give us enough time to look at it, you might avoid it, but what enough time means to them is they probably need a few months to get. So, so if they do go probationary status, the state board will have the ability to make their own rules for those two subbasins, and that could be up to and including going to sustainable yield, which means by the end of 24, early 25, we could see a significant reduction in groundwater pumping, which then is a significant reduction in production. So, whole other fluid issues. So we're keeping a close eye on that. We're communicating with the state board that if they do go probationary status, they need to work with the GSAs and the GSA managers. Initially, they said, well, the GSAs will just continue to implement this plan, but we're going to work with landowners directly. And we're like, good luck with that, but you're also undermining, these organizations that have come into existence and working with their landowners and trying to make progress. And people would make good progress.
Our overall purpose of the committee. I'm wondering if what our role would be. And use planning. How would it impact what on the land plan? Or key components for on the land plan? You're getting money. I mean that all the pieces of ground are going to be opened up to be developed. If so, you could just get a sketch can, your chaos, or there's some way to try to organize it. Some way to maintain our best land. And otherwise, the intersections that you have there with private property rights, who owns the water, all of it. I have a real hard time picturing in my mind vision what it looks like. Every operator has to start this fallow 30-40% of the land and how to do it under no plan.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen.
I'm afraid I could.
you know, the people that can afford to buy land and follow it, that's already happened. They can buy land, they can take whatever's on it, trees, whatever, knock it off, all around. They're gonna stay in business. But the guy out here with a small piece of ground can't afford to follow 30% of the ground, stay in business. He's gone. And it's gonna be survival of the largest. That's the
That's without any, without some type of methodology of intercession of some type. And that's certainly what it looks like, is it'd be another, you know, guy with the big, longest and biggest straw is going to be one of the winners.
So to that end, on behalf of the county, and I know many of you are in the same, Tulare and Kauai both have a multi-benefit land repurposing program, and they have a stakeholder committee, that folks they're constantly looking for people to come and participate and provide feedback. The county is also the recipient of a sustainable ag land conservation program, which is the flip side of the multi-benefit land repurposing. We did an RFP for a land trust as well as a consultant. And so we're kicking that off in a kickoff meeting with the consulting group after the end of the month, right? And so from there, another stakeholder group will be developed to, this is just for the Tulare, the Eastern Tulare GSA area as a pilot program. And it is to develop a matrix just similar to what you just described as far as identifying ag land that should stay in production in perpetuity. And then the goal is to enroll the first easements. That's a pretty steep hill to climb, but that is one thing that's in the works. And then if we are successful, then like I said, it's a pilot that we would then want to expand, whether we with the land trust or do it as the county believe.
Who's the land trust?
It's the Tulare land trust.
Oh, the Tipton one?
Tulare water and land.
Yeah.
Tulare water and land, yeah.
Another thing I'll add, I sit on the stakeholder committee for Greater Kauai GSA, and one direction we're kind of looking at right now is, we just got approved, the board of directors meeting on Monday was, you know, higher fees for the transitional water you're allotted, which, you know, a lot of us farmers were against, you know, these astronomical fees, we didn't have something to do with that money. Well, if we have enough, if we charge enough of a fee, we can generate money to buy surface water and import back into our GSA, which will help our fallowing situation and not have to fallow so much land. There is a fallowing program where we take that money we raise through a tier or transitional water fees and start a fallowing program, which we're, you know, starting our first go at it this year. Doesn't look great right now, but hopefully in future years we have a better program and more participation. But it's the lowest bidder gets the bid, and they're able to follow their ground out. It's a year, it's a 1 year program, so you're not gonna have not necessarily gonna have the same land that gets fallowed every year. And you could often put your land in it every year, but you're the lowest bidder out of however many bids they get and be able to participate. It's those are two solutions, I guess, that, you know, doesn't basically have 4 charge process. So another ways around it, but that's all.
Is it also approved the fee, $150 to $250 for tier 1 and tier 2? It makes just about everybody farming. That's at least $400 an acre cost of farming for the water.
Yeah, it's in line with
Over and above what everybody's paying now.
Mid-Kauai GSA's general manager, Aaron Scooter. It's more in line with what he thinks in terms of cost of replacing that water. That was kind of his big point to argue is was we have to, if we're gonna allow that water to overdraft, we have to replace it. And what's the cost to replace water? And that's where our fees should be aiming to do that. The cost of fitting to replace it. So our fees now we've got approved for 2024, and they're in line with what Aaron thinks they should be in terms of what it costs to replace water. The idea is to start replacing that water, forming a committee that's a water purchasing committee and buying water with that money raised through transitional funding.
My understanding of the state groundwater management act, water can't be used to be sustainability. It's either, that's either can help in the fund, can't use it to balance sustainability. obligations.
Their pumping is about sustainable yield, so it's a transitional.
It's that transitional.
pumping, yeah.
Okay.
These fees are talking about our firm, your conventional, they're about sustainable.
Question is, where are you gonna get the water if you got the money? Where's it coming from?
Well, yeah, that's kind of what, we all asked Aaron, is this a pie in the sky type thing, it's been a tough situation with our three GSAs and the Kauai subbasin and not necessarily getting along. And we're all going after the same goal here, but we're in very different situations. And, Aaron's been trying to, hang a carrot at us, so to speak, by, hey, if you guys raise your pumping fees, I'll be able to get some water imported. And we're all been asking, is that just, you raising a carrot in front of us, try to get us, more in line with what you want us to do?
What are you gonna import it with? Buckets? There's no infrastructure.
There's quite a bit of infrastructure in the greater Kauai, that's existing through ditch company.
Eric could potentially exchange Kauai water with Bureau water.
You're gonna have any water either way.
Well, but it's TID water, Bureau, because you get
There's very little of that.
right.
Well, very little of
What Aaron's got, capability of is the fact that he has Bureau water and he has Kauai water. And
he has
so
tertiary treated water.
that too, and that part is beyond my.
That's already kind of in an exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's able to work out lots of deals to be able to, in an average year or below average year, when there's not enough Bureau water to meet the contractor's needs, you could send them Kauai water in exchange for contract water in a wetter year and get twice as much water.
Well, that works sometimes when you have, I've been, I know they trade around, jack around. But you get down to the nitty gritty, you're not gonna get that federal water. If we get a bunch of dry years, you're not gonna have Kauai water. All the money in the world isn't gonna buy any water.
I totally agree with that. And that was one of my concerns doing this is like, look, this is a tough, it's not going to be easy to do this. Aaron's kind of making it sound like it's going to be easy, but it's not.
Well,
and, we're going to have to work really hard on it.
We're probably not have the red flag.
Yeah.
County council.
We're still saying in Sigma, but yeah, maybe let's talk about.
Jeff, do you remember, and this has been, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I think I remember. LA County wanted to trade King, Kauai, and Kauai water 3-1. Do you remember that? I remember the numbers. Yeah, it was either 3 or 5 to 1. If we wanted to trade Kauai River water, Kauai River water, Kings River water for canal water, they would trade us in either 3 or 5 to 1 acre feet out of American.
That would have been on the opposite.
Yeah, that was out of the aqueduct. They offered to trade, I believe it was 5 to 1. Because they have to purify that water coming down the canal. Our water is much purer. They wouldn't have to spend the money cleaning it. And we passed on it. That would take care of it. And the deal might still be able to be struck. It was just a matter that our water is so clean compared to what comes down the canal. The cost of cleaning up their water versus trading us 3 or 5 to 1, whatever it was, made sense to them.
I just circle back to where the chair was you were kind of asking, I think, theoretically, what is the role of our county ag advisory committee, who, all the way back in the 1970s, when the RBLP was crafted, out of Farm Bureau and Ag Advisory Committee at that time, we have played a role over the years in trying to be a place that's kind of think tank, and a place for county board of supervisors to, ask direction on agricultural and land use topics where they intersect. So I would be curious, and maybe another agenda, trying to figure out how we unpack this, pivotal place we're at. Because there's obviously a gazillion places that people can plug into the GSA process. Stakeholder advisory committees, or technical advisory committees, the county's NLRP, open benefit land repurposing advisory committees. There's a gazillion advisory committees that we're being swallowed alive by, but I don't see where that intersects. Anyway, but I do think it's an interesting question that you asked of us around what is our role in trying to look at that intersection of stigma and planning and land use are going to intersect. They already are. And what's up is happening in a big giant vacuum around us.
It's almost, where does the county role in stigma, right? Because people do not come to the county to get a permit to say, I'm gonna grow this crop on this acreage.
We do have to be for a well permit.
That as long as it meets standards, we have to say, sure, and.
But if that ground that is fallow, and it's not doing anything,
Providing direction.
then are we leaving it open for development?
It would have to have,
And
water.
what was appropriate, well,
Water for agriculture and water for the city seem to be 2 different things. The California Water Service builds all the wells they want.
Build all the houses they want.
No problem.
Well, the important thing is that you should not build houses on irrigated, or to build houses only on irrigated land. Because you're saving water. If irrigated land is free to be, developed land is 1.3. But,
the both over the wall.
yeah.
But also, where are these people working at building income?
Or not using
The economy goes away. I mean, we, at the county staff level, we've been having a lot of conversations, and at the water commission and state supervisors. I mean, there's so many issues around, and then what is the value of that land when it's fallowed? Because right now it's based on production, so we've never valued water. So is there a value for water, and how is it that we're going to get that? We don't know what happens to our general fund dollars because they're based off of property tax revenue. And then what is the ag community going to do? Are they going to switch to more higher value crops, and the value is going to? I mean, there are so many areas. But yeah.
I want you, well, I'd like to look at me, I'd like to see an analysis of the road to start.
Well, we'll have to do an agenda for you want staff to prepare an item for that.
Yes, don't you just take a look at the RBLP and the fact that we are fallowing land. What's going to, is the RBLP still applicable? Or is everything going to go through, how's it going to change proposed shifts in? Which zoning change we're looking about?
Well, it goes to the planning. The planning commission uses the RBLP.
The plan would use RBLP.
And if the RBLP is no longer valid, or it needs to be, it makes assumptions that are no longer. I brought that up before, but we don't know if it's time yet or not.
Well, you used the time, you used the date, 2024, 2025.
Yeah, now with the probationary status, you can't really.
Probationary status, you're going to be looking for
We'll just pay for the, those items the same.
One from Chris was on, you guys know, but. So November 1 was the deadline on allowing people to work on Apple Creek. Canal. Everybody comes to top of the creek, you'll call, Lewis Creek, without break. Well, they were allowed to work and they had to go back to work. So we met with them regarding the November 1 deadline, and we still have water in the creek and too wet to get equipment in there. They need repair. And the state says, no, we have this permit process.
And it's easy, it's streamlined.
Yeah, streamline. Streamline the permit process. When you take a year or longer to get permits go in. So they claim that they have a streamlined process. It's not like that. So what I want to know is if anybody calls your office and anyone of you says you're having difficulty getting into these creeks, because Lewis Creek still has water in it. El Mirador is flooded. Water's coming up out of the ground. These guys are losing their creek. They're dying to do so. They're just coming out of the ground, dumping off into Lewis Creek. Sand Creek is so wet that they can't get equipment in there. And I'm told it's part of the same, Cottonwood Creek. They're so full of sand that you literally step in the bank into it. Now, I don't know. I haven't seen it. There's a lot of it that way. And I'm told it's this, and there's trees on there, they cannot get equipment to work on. So, according to the state, there is a streamlined permit process. If that's any difference, I want to know so I can speak to our state actually. And so,
No worries. I can speak to that a little bit. N 1023, which is the executive order of sunset on November 1st, was actually an executive order that was written almost entirely based on the suggestions of Christopher Greer and myself during the March. So it was written by the state for our county because of what we asked for.
and we tell them that there's still water in the creeks too.
And they said, we need to protect it.
We sent a letter, we sent a letter saying, please extend this. We're still in flood condition, we're still in flood recovery operations. And their solution was we have a discipline that deals with it and a process that can address it. Granted, before we didn't have to go through that process, but just to add to the conversation, the code section that the state now recommends we use, Fish and Wildlife Code 1610, under existing state of emergency, the alterations to be made to a creek bed without going through the normal processing, but it has to be applied for to the Secretary of Natural Resources.
And they're dragging it. I got one farm. So, you have any difficulties, call me, send me an email, forward to me, so I can forward, but that's all, that's what I'm asking, because it's really,
We did ask to extend it, the board of supervisors asked to extend it, Aaron wrote a very.
we tried to get involved.
Letter asking for it to be extended, they said, give us examples, we gave specific examples, and then they said, we have a really easy way for you to do this all.
Something different. Granted, just without, I don't want to keep this going on, I want to know, send me an email, so we'll forward it up, please.
Any other staff or committee comment updates?
Future.
Future. Comments?
I don't know on the next meeting. Now that we have wolves in Tulare County, if you, and they're all on the reservation right now, and they're not allowed to because the reservation can kill the wolves without any interference. But, no, they were told they can kill. There's a reservation, they can't get in that reservation. Okay. But State of California has come up with a program since they've got wolves in the state of California. If you are within a 250-mile radius of a known wolf pack, the state of California will pay you to take actions to prevent the wolves from depredating whatever it is you have, cattle, goats, sheep, whatever. The state of California will pay you to take these actions. They'll pay you to go out with your cattle every day. They'll pay you to go out there and do it at night. Okay. So a friend of mine is in that 250-mile radius, and they tried to get some of this money. Well, we don't have that program set up just yet. It's, here's what we're going to do. They even can tell you how much they're going to pay you to take these measures. All right. What I would like is the Tulare County Board of Supervisors to try to put some pressure on the state to get this thing going, because it's here. We know where they are. We know where the 250-mile radius is, and if people can be reimbursed for taking these actions, they need to be, and the state needs to get with it. I think they've got $3 million put away back. So, if this committee could possibly recommend to the Board of Supervisors to try to, push this deal some way.
I know you think it's a game, Paul. Run a letter. Something.
If you want,
Person, you familiar with this law? Okay, I'll need to call
the gal from Kings County, supposed to get livestock. Julie Fensel would be the gal to talk to. She's got all this stuff. She's the livestock gal.
Can I get her contact?
We'll get you in touch with.
She current.
Yeah, and we're on to that. She made a very temporary re-entry from the sabbatical and almost post that.
Okay, all right. No, we don't have that.
There's a state wolf reimbursement program, but
It's been funded, but it's not in action.
I think you guys kind of got it covered.
Yeah,
If you need help, bring it to us, right?
Yeah, I'll have Israel call. I've got it. We have such a big platform. I'll see what is covered in there. We can just come to the board and drop it and do. Sounds like the groups encouraging.
Yeah. Any other points?
So that's not gonna be at this committee, that's
Yeah.
Sure, take hands with Colin or new member. We leave, yes.
Yeah, it kind of told me to be on this committee.
When I interviewed him, his arm was still in the sling.
they said that they have snacks, and he's really disappointed.
So we just quick, my item be that we still have one vacant position in general farming. So got somebody else that's already have not listed. And we hopefully will.
Bob's the guy.
Yeah, Bob, so you did really good, Bob. You can catch it
A
up.
little bit hard, since we didn't have a meeting. My back, I got this, unmotivated also. I think we should have the meetings more often, and come up with something.
Oh my God, please. I can't have another meeting just for the sake of a meeting.
Well, when I last closing comment
Yeah, right.
on that issue, what is, when you're talking about the purpose of the committee, I don't know, I'd like to see the original bylaws and review them again, but one of the things I have always envisioned for this committee is this is also a place where the public can come instead of having to go take time from a board of supervisors meeting. The public can
I
come
invited
here.
my public member, okay, he came, he's excited, he's lost the will to live.
I do see this, just like the advisory committee for the air district, TAC, I'm on there, and other things of the committee. It's a place for the public to come where they have specific ag-related issues that they would like to have the board look at. And then can you imagine if you had 40, we've never had 40 people here, but if there was an issue like the one that they had, maybe if those people had been here dealing with it, I mean, like this, it would have saved a lot of grief for the students. Chris could have fun.
But can I say something?
Yes, sir.
But I think to this point and to your point is that we lacked to be the meeting when this particular situation was happening. And we didn't have a meeting when this situation was happening. And if we would have had the meeting, there was a possibility that we could have took further action. And so if we have something outstanding, I think we probably should thank that meeting anyway.
Right.
Any comment?
There was a time that it just, you know, motorcycling, but there was a time where we were having a meeting that kind of like, why are we having a meeting? We don't really have an agenda item, you know? And we don't want that either, but there's a balance in there. You know?
Years in which we weren't allowed to discuss anything unless we took it up in a very, very specific order. And just have to answer,
And,
raising questions about a lot of topics.
and I know Supervisor McCarty stepped out of the group. I would much rather work with people taking the initiative and getting the leg on things and work with people.
If I understand, you've been in the ground, there's a lot of things we can talk about, we just can't take action.
It needs the discussion, if you're having a discussion, it needs to be agenda or at least tangentially related.
Yeah, like we did on this last one. There are ways to bring it in.
Yeah, you can get there, but if you're gonna take action, absolutely.
Well, absolutely not.
Need that, yeah.
And you can always keep us on the straight and narrow on the discussion items. Let us get our conversations and keep us channeled so we stay within that area.
All right. No surprise, everybody's waiting for us. I'll entertain a motion.
Also move.
Second. Second. Councilman.
You, I don't agree. Yeah. You scared me. No, I know. You said it. You scared me. No, he's